Heading into the 2023 season, there are a lot of expectations on a lot of different players across the MLB. However, only a few can win the big awards across the MLB. So what does that mean? Today, right here on Bleacher Brawls, I'm going to predict the winner of not just both leagues' MVPs, both leagues' Cy Youngs, and the winners of the Rookie of the Year in both leagues, both the AL and the NL. It's going to be a fun one. So let's dive straight into it. You're watching Bleacher Brawls. My name is Derek, and let's get straight into it. The first award we're going to start with is let's work up to the big awards, right? Actually, you know what? I'm just joking. We're going to start with the big ones because we're going to start with the AL MVP and my prediction for the 2023 American League MVP. The winner of the 2023 AL MVP is going to be Shohei Ohtani. I feel like this is the easiest prediction to make because if he has it would take an Aaron Judge level year from last year to beat him out to the MVP. That's how good Shohei is on both sides of the ball. It's one of those things where you have to have like a historic season just to beat Shohei in the MVP voting. That's how good of a year you have to have. Like that 2021 year Vladimir Guerrero Jr. had was outrageous, but it still wasn't wasn't near good enough because Shohei won it unanimously. And I honestly think he had a better 2022. Yeah, less homers or whatever, but pitching wise, he was so much better. And I think that kind of comes into play where it's like, okay, like Shohei's not only gonna give you a very, very good hitter, arguably the best DH in the league. Jordan's 1 and he's 2 in the entire MLB. But then also you look and you look at the pitching side of things. He's a top 5 pitcher in the American League. Like you put those two things together, you get a top 5, arguably a top 5 hitter in baseball and arguably a top 5 pitcher in baseball. And that's the same player. It's hard to pick against them. I think Shohei's going to win it. My reason is that he's just going to have an all-around good year. He's going to have a great year at the plate, great year on the mound. It's going to combine, and he's going to be an undeniable MVP. Moving on to the National League. The National League MVP for 2023, my prediction is that it is going to be Juan Soto. Yes, Juan Soto, of all people, had a rough start heading over to the Padres in that trade. Obviously, Petco is not a hitter-friendly park necessarily, but one thing that stayed with Juan Soto is he just walked. He only hit 242 last year. He still had a 401 on base percentage. Like, that's outrageous. First of all, that is the definition of outrageous. And his projections for 2023 are, hit 281, 431 on base, 528 slugging, 32 homers. His projections have him at a 7.1 WAR. Soto is just outrageous. It's just outrageous. He's one of those guys where he'll get on base. I feel like Soto can hit 200 and still get on base, have an on base percentage over 400. Like he's outrageous. And if he's hitting while getting more hits, he hits close to 300 with an on base at like 450, and he hits 35 jacks. Like it's gonna be hard to deny him the MVP. I did consider going Manny Machado because I feel like the Padres are gonna have a really big year, and I think there's a chance they beat the Dodgers out to the division title. So I considered going Machado, but I feel like if the Padres are gonna do that and they beat out the Dodgers, I think Juan Soto is gonna have to play the biggest role in that. So I've decided to go with Juan Soto as my MVP pick. Moving on to the American League Cy Young. Let's get into this one. My 2023 pick for the American League Cy Young is going to be the same as my 2023 pick for my AL MVP. I'm going with Shohei Ohtani. He's entering free agency, right? He's entering free agency. He's bound to have another really good year. And we only saw his pitching get better last year. And it wasn't like he got better over the offseason and had a good year. He got better over the offseason, but he continued to get better and better and better in season. So when I'm looking at Shohei, I'm going, I'm looking at like he's okay. If he gets better again, he's gonna win the Cy Young. Because last year I was looking at it, I'm like, you could make an argument that he's a Cy Young finalist. He's at that third spot in the Cy Young. It was pretty clear who the top two were last year in the American League. It was Verlander and then Dylan Cease. But you could like I was looking at the argument like you could make a legit argument for Shohei, winning that Cy Young, winning or not winning the Cy Young, becoming a Cy Young finalist and being that third guy. Obviously, it went to Alek Manoah, but I think Shohei is going to once again have another great year. And this is why I didn't fully talk about Shohei when talking about the MVP is obviously we all know he's great at the plate. His projections for 2023, through the roof, whatever at the plate. But, just look at him pitch on the pitching side of things. And last year he was outrageous. He had a 2.33 ERA, a 2.40 FIP, 5.6 WAR as a pitcher. Like, just out of this world, like just amazing. And I think there's a chance he takes a step forward. Obviously, there's going to be more competition in that AL West, I think. It would seem like the Mariners probably aren't going to get off to as bad as a start they did last year. The Rangers have brought in some pieces. They should be more competitive. Obviously, you have the Astros, the A's, and the A's at this point. But I believe in Shohei's ability. And last year he dropped his walks per nine by like 0.7. He raised his Ks per nine by 1.1. Like, shut more guys out per 9 innings. He walked less guys per 9 innings. He went 166 innings last year, which he only went 130 in 2021. I think there's a chance Shohei gives you 170, maybe even close to 180, probably not 180, but I think 170 can still win you a Cy Young. And when I look at Shohei, and if he goes out and has, and I think last year there was like a stretch of Shohei being dominant. And I think if Shohei can be that dominant, like throughout most of the year, if not the whole year, especially too, I think a lot of stuff in the Cy Young voting comes down to being dominant down the stretch. If the Angels are good this year, good heading into 2023, not good throughout 2023, and they're competitive and they're pushing for a playoff spot. And even if they do make a playoff spot, it's going to make the case for Shohei all the much better if he is a dominant pitcher throughout the season. And I think Shohei has the ability to it. Obviously, yes, I could pick a Dylan Cease or Alek Manoah or whatever, but Shohei's that guy entering free agency. When you enter free agency and Shohei goes out, wins the MVP and wins the Cy Young. How much money is this guy going to get? How much money is he going to get? It's going to be outrageous. And that's why I believe he's going to step up to the plate even more this year. And I think the Angels make a push and get into the playoffs, which they haven't done with Shohei yet, and they've only done one switch out. They got to do it this year before Shohei hits free agency if they want any chance of keeping him in town. Moving on to the NL Cy Young. The NL Cy Young. My pick for 2023, my prediction, I am going with the guy who finished in the top 3 last year, was a Cy Young finalist. However, he didn't win it, but he was absolutely dominant down the second half of the season. My pick for the NL Cy Young for 2023 is going to be Zach Gallen of the Arizona Diamondbacks. I think the D-backs are going to surprise some people this year, and I think Zach Gallen is going to continue doing that. He had a 2.54 ERA last year, 3.05 FIP, but just down the stretch of that second half, just the definition of dominant. Had he had a better first half, I truly believe that he would have. I truly do believe that he would have been like pushing Sandy Alcantara for the Cy Young, and I truly believe that. When you look at his second half numbers, he had 90 innings in the second half in 2022. He had a 1.49 ERA, like outrageous. You compare that to his first half last year, 3.56 ERA. He goes and he has a 2 ERA throughout the whole course of the year, like low 2s, and even pushing into the 1s the whole year. Like, that's a Cy Young year. And Alcantara, I know he was amazing last year. If the Marlins aren't good, and you're looking at it, the Mets are probably going to watch Verlander and Scherzer because they're older. I know they both can pitch a lot, but at the end of the day, for the Mets, they got into the playoffs and they lost in that wild card round to the Padres. They want everyone healthy going into the playoffs, so they might rest them occasionally here and there. just for small little like injuries or whatever that they normally wouldn't rest because they want them to be healthy. And I think this D-backs team is going to surprise people. I'm not saying they're going to make the playoffs, but I think there's a chance it could be almost like the Orioles of last year, where it's like they have a young, fun, exciting team with some veterans mixed in, and they could make a run and surprise some people and be kind of that fun team of 2023. And I think Zach Gallen he's going to be the head of it with his pitching. We saw it with Alcantara with the Marlins last year. You can win a Cy Young on a bad team. I don't think this D-backs team is going to be a bad team. I think they're going to be a good team. And I think Zach Gallen's going to contribute that massively, and I think he's going to have a very, very good year if he continues just doing what he did in the second half. I'm not saying he's going to have a 150 ERA all throughout next year, but give him a low twos, high ones ERA. I think it's hard to predict that, but it wouldn't shock me if he brings in what he was doing in the second half, and how good he was doing in that second half. If he just brings that into 2023 and just does that from the get-go, I think there's a legitimate chance that Zach Gallen is your Cy Young winner for 2023 in the National League. With my 2023 AL Rookie of the Year, I'm going with Masataka Yoshida. Is this a little bit biased because I'm a Red Sox fan? Maybe. Maybe it is. But it feels like Yoshida is going to be one of that perfect leadoff hitter for the Red Sox. And if the Red Sox are a good team, and people, especially with Story out, are going to be up. They're finishing in last place, but if the Red Sox are a good team and they push for the playoffs, and if they make the playoffs, Yoshida is going to be front and center, being that leadoff hitter. They haven't really had a leadoff hitter since they traded Mookie Betts. Yoshida's going to come in, be that guy. His projections, you could say, yeah, maybe they're a little high. They have him 123 games, a 298 average, a 388 on base, 479 slugging, 140 weighted runs created plus, 3.6 WAR, 17 homers. Is that maybe a little high? Yeah, maybe it is. But I think it's going to be a guy who doesn't strike out too much. Draw his fair share of walks. He'll get on base. And even if you look at some of the other projections for him, you look at it, maybe you could see like a 125 weighted runs created plus, and being a table setter in that lineup, I think is going to be huge. Yes, you could say a little bit of a learning curve coming over to the big leagues. Yeah, but I think he's going to be, in a good lineup where he gets on base. And I always say this with guys, like your approach, I say this with prospects coming up to the big leagues, a guy like Tristan Casas, your approach, if you have your approach, it doesn't just go away when you come up to the big leagues. If you have an approach at the plate, it doesn't just go. It doesn't just leave you. A guy like Tristan Casas, he's going to draw his walks. Maybe he's a little too patient in his big league call-up, but he's not. His approach isn't going to just go away from him, and so he's not just going to become a free swinger. Yoshida's not going to do that. He's not just going to become a free swinger. His approach will stay. Yes, there might be some adjustment to MLB pitching, but I think there's a chance he plays in the World Baseball Classic. I think he is. And so he'll face some big league pitching there. And then when Japan's done the World Baseball Classic, he will return to spring. He'll go to spring training with the Red Sox. But depending on where Japan ends up, Japan should make a deep run. So they'll probably go deep into it. But also, too, even in training for the World Baseball Classic, look at Japan. Some of the arms they have. They have Shohei, there. You have Yu Darvish. And you even have, like, Kodai Senga. And there's other arms, too. I'm not just going to list them all out. But he will face MLB pitching before the World Baseball Classic, during the World Baseball Classic, and at that end of spring training. He'll face it. So I think there is enough time, especially with the World Baseball Classic, I think there is enough time to go and get used to it, at least get used to it to where he's comfortable against it, and I think he'll only get better as the season goes. And I think he's that perfect leadoff hitter for the Red Sox lineup. And also, too, I'm looking at Rookie of the Year in the AL, and yes, you could go with some of the rookies, but I think when you have a guy who was this good of a hitter in Japan, and he's coming over, like, I feel like I kind of have to pick him. Whereas, like, last year, I would have picked Seiya Suzuki for the NL Rookie of the Year. Didn't have the greatest year, but we saw the flashes, right? I think Yoshida, I think he's going to be consistent throughout the year, so that's why I'm going to pick him to win the AL Rookie of the Year. And he is eligible for it because he's never played a day in MLB before. So that's what I'm picking. For the NL Rookie of the Year, I'm going to go and pick Corbin Carroll, sticking with my Arizona D-backs. That's why I'm wearing my D-backs hat. I think The NL Rookie of the Year, I was looking at like Francisco Alvarez. I don't know if he starts the year on their roster. I'm just kind of looking around. I'm like, it might be Corbin Carroll if the D-backs have a good year and they shock some people. I think Corbin Carroll is going to be right front and center. There's a chance he could be their leadoff hitter or definitely at the top of that lineup. And in that short sample size in the big leagues last year, 32 games, only 115 plate appearances, but 260 average, 330 on base, 500 slugging. It was a 130 weighted runs created. Plus, very small sample size. Yes, put up a 1.4 F WAR in just 32 games. It's a very small sample size. Even if you look at his 2023 projections, you're looking at a 3.1 WAR, and I think there's a chance he could even be a little better than that. But yeah, I definitely think he can be better than that. We'll see how consistent he can be throughout the course of an MLB season. But I think that with the D-backs, and he's going to be in the outfield, and also too, the guy can run. He can run. I'd be shocked if he doesn't steal a lot of bases. In 2022 in the minors, stole 20 bases in Double A in 58 games, and 33 games in Triple A. He stole 11 bases. He only stole 2 in his 32 games in the big leagues. Don't be shocked if he steals 25, 30 bags in a full season in the big leagues. I don't think that would shock me at all. And now, heading into 2023, I think there's a good chance he could be their leadoff hitter. And even if he's not their leadoff hitter, definitely near that top of the order and be a good bat for them, steal a decent amount of bases. If the rule changes to the bases and the pickoff rules and whatever, I think will help him because he played with it all throughout the minor leagues. So I think there's a chance he could steal 20, 25, maybe even up to 30 bases if they let him run and are aggressive with him. So that's why I'm going with my 2023 NL Rookie of the Year pick as Corbin Carroll. So, what are your guys' thoughts on those 3 big awards? Who did I get any of them wrong? Do you think I'm off on any of them? Do you agree with me? What were your picks? Obviously, I tried not to pick, the obvious on every single award. There was maybe a little bit of bias in there. Maybe, I won't lie. Maybe there was a little bit of D-backs and Red Sox bias. But I do believe in the guys I picked, and it wouldn't shock me if all those guys went out and won those awards. It also wouldn't shock me if none of them did, and just crazy stuff happens. But that's the fun of predicting this stuff. So let us know in the comments who would you pick for each of these awards, the MVPs, Cy Youngs, and Rookie of the Years. Let us know in the comments. We'll try and respond to as many as possible, if not all of them. So let us know. Make sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you're notified whenever we post. Check out all our Bleacher Brawls links in the description. And that's it. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for tuning in to Bleacher Brawls. My name is Derek. I'll see you next time.